Ladies and gentlemen, today we have some absolutely massive breaking news regarding Democrat Senator John Fetterman, and I'll tell you what, it seems as if Senator Fetterman isn't going to be a Democrat for very much longer. Now, as many of you know, this recent government shutdown has sown complete and total chaos inside of the Democrat Party. Really, what's currently unfolding can only be described as an all-out Democrat civil war. You've got far-left politicians like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Bernie Sanders, and Zohran Mamdani, who are currently trying to push the Democrat Party to become even more radically progressive, whereas politicians like John Fetterman are trying to moderate the party and, in some ways, even bring the party back to its senses. And so really, it's because of this ongoing power struggle within the Democrat Party that Senator John Fetterman is now putting his own party publicly on blast. Take a look.
I think my party crossed a line of now putting 42 million Americans with their SNAP benefits and making flying less safe and that kinds of chaos and not paying our military. I mean, that was a red line for me that I can't cross as a Democrat. And I think that's been described country over the party. And now that I think that's been the truth throughout it. And it's only wrong to shut our government down. And I'm relieved. But the people now that are going to get paid and fed and millions of Americans, they're going to be flying now. That's going to be made more safe and restored.
And so, folks, as Senator Fetterman just said, the Democrat Party just crossed a line. And you know what? He's absolutely right. Here's the unfortunate reality. Fetterman really is one of the only moderate Democrats left in the entire party. In a lot of ways, he's a relic from the past, from when the Democrats could somewhat reasonably claim that they represented the working man, the everyday blue-collar worker. However, with that being said, those days are very clearly long gone. Although, as I mentioned earlier, it currently seems as if Senator Fetterman is actually considering swapping over to the Republican Party. Take a look.
I actually sat down with Senator Fetterman, and I find that he probably has more in common with Donald Trump than he does with any of the Democrats in his party. He's very common sense. He's very straightforward. He wants to do the right thing, and they just can't do that anymore in the Democrat Party. And that's so unfortunate, because if I were the leader of that party, I would say this is the kind of individual I want to have. This is somebody who makes sense and who the American people feel like actually has their best interest in heart. And I can tell you, the people of Pennsylvania, I sure feel that way about John Fetterman, but this is what they're trying to get rid of.
So, folks, that was Laura Trump, President Trump's daughter-in-law, saying that she's been having private meetings with John Fetterman. And also, worth making note of here, she actually spoke very highly of him, saying that he actually has much more in common with President Trump than he does with any of the radical progressives that are currently operating the Democrat Party. The reality is, in 2025, the Democrat Party has been completely hijacked by the far-left radical progressives, and I'm not just talking about their politicians, I'm also talking about the Democrat voting electorate. In fact, right now, the radically progressive Democrat electorate is actually up in arms over Chuck Schumer's capitulation to President Trump, ultimately bringing this Democrat-manufactured government shutdown to an end. And if you don't believe me, take a look at this.
How are Democrats feeling overall about Schumer? We've seen a lot of comments from some House Democrats, but what about overall?
What about Democrats nationwide feeling about Chuck Schumer? I think the word of the day is terrible, 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 terrible. To quote another Charles Barkley when it comes to Chuck Schumer, look at this. Least popular Dem Senate leader ever. I looked at all of the polls going all the way back since 1985. The one who has the lowest rating among Democrats is in fact Chuck Schumer. Look at this. He's underwater with Democrats. His own party, he's underwater. He's at -4 points. That makes him the least popular guy for a Dem Senate leader going all the way back since the mid-1980s at least.
Do you have a sense of why?
Why? It's because Democrats, they want a fighter. They want a fighter. That's why. Take a look here. Dems in Congress do too little to oppose Trump. During the first term, it was just 46% in 2017. That's the percentage of Democrats who said that the Dems in Congress are doing too little to oppose Donald Trump. Look at where we are now, 69%. That is an increase of, get this, 23 points. The super duper majority of Democrats believe that the Democrats in Congress are not doing enough to oppose Donald Trump. And that, of course, is a big, huge criticism of Chuck Schumer. And that is why he is underwater.
I knew you were going to do the dip.
And so, folks, as things currently stand, Chuck Schumer is so underwater that he's actually likely to dip out of politics altogether. In fact, right this very moment, Chuck Schumer actually has some pretty serious internal challengers from within his own party threatening to take his seat in the Senate. And so right now, I'll tell you what, Chuck Schumer is absolutely sweating bullets. But before we take a look at that, I do want to say real quick that if you folks enjoy the daily news updates, please consider subscribing to the channel because it really does help a ton. But okay, check this out.
There has been talks of a challenge to Schumer. What are you saying on that front? Who looks like they're in place to do it?
Okay, so you see this opening slide here, and you see, of course, that Chuck Schumer is underwater with Democrats nationally. But, of course, the ultimate way to get Chuck Schumer out of office is to beat him in New York State. So how do New York State Democrats feel about Chuck Schumer? And take a look here. The net favorable among New York Democrats. Chuck Schumer is above water with the Democrats in his home state, but just by 16 points. Look at Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez running way ahead. If she decides to challenge Chuck Schumer come 2028, she's got a real leg up on the competition. I dare say at this point she would be the favorite to beat him, which would be something that would just blow my mind, even just a few years ago, given that Chuck Schumer, of course, is a New York born bred type of guy.
Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that right there is actually Chuck Schumer's primary issue, ironically enough. As we all saw just around a week ago, Ugandan communist Zoran Mamdani won the New York City mayoral election, and believe it or not, 60% of the people that voted for him in that election were actually non-native New Yorkers. They were actually foreign-born immigrants. And so, like I've said here on this channel time and time again, this really is the far left's long-term plan. They know that their entire political platform is absolutely intolerable to actual Americans, so their political plan is to just replace all of us actual Americans with tens of millions of immigrants from the third world. But really, I do have to say, perhaps Chuck Schumer's biggest failure in this entire situation was betting against President Trump. Take a look.
He thought he could break the Republicans, and the Republicans broke him. But he did think that we have good policy, they have bad policy. And there's something, I don't know if it's Trump derangement or they're just crazed. They're like crazed lunatics. But, we have just great policy. We have good people. They have some good people, too. I know a lot of Democrats. They're not all crazy. They're not all. But you have some that are absolutely terrible. I look at this Crockett. This is a very low IQ person. And I look at somebody that comes from Somalia where they don't have anything. They don't have police. They don't have military. They don't have anything. All they have is crime. And she comes in and tells us how to run our country. The Constitution says this, the Constitution. The whole thing is crazy. I feel badly because I've known Chuck Schumer. I knew him when he was a person who loved Israel, and now he's a Palestinian. He's become a Palestinian, and it's amazing. I've never seen a politician change so much. Also, he doesn't have, he was a pretty talented guy. He's lost his talent.
And so, folks, what do you say we really break down this very sad and frankly pathetic series of events that have unfolded here? Chuck Schumer, seemingly totally oblivious to just how radically progressive his own party has really become, has been trying to fit in with all of these far-left radical progressives, but the truth is, they don't want him really, they want to kick him to the curb. And so, back to the original point in today's video, this is exactly why Senator Fetterman is getting ready to bail out of the Democrat Party altogether and maybe end up even becoming a Republican. Because even Senator Fetterman, of all people, knows that the Democrat Party in 2025 really is the party of America last.